Well, that was nice. Hey folks, how you doing? Nick Jennison, Guitar Interactive Magazine, licklibrary.com. It's Monday. We're doing the thing that we're doing on Mondays, which is hang out and talk about the guitar. And today you will be noticed, I'm sure, you will have noticed rather, I'm sure that I'm brandishing one of these. There's a guitar with a hole in it, and I'm also wearing headphones because we're doing some licks that we can steal from classical guitar players today. A very restful intro, I'm sure you'll agree. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. Also, you'll notice lurking over my shoulder, over this way, we have an electric guitar. So friends, if you are not a classical guitar player, I am not a classical guitar player. If you don't even own a classical guitar, don't worry, you're in good company. We have all sorts of good stuff that you can steal from the wonderful universe of classical guitar for you today. However, a quick shout out to today's sponsor before we go any further. Today's stream is brought to you, as I'm sure you can see in the lovely big lettering up here, by our friends, my friends, everyone's friends over at Fishman. Now, Fishman have provided not only this beautiful chord guitar. This is a chord Sol Encanto, which literally means the charm of the sun. Beautiful looking guitar, as Ergo Hog has rightly pointed out. A beautiful looking chord, can confirm. I love these chord acoustics. You can check out a full review of this in an upcoming edition of Guitar Interactive Magazine, but they've also provided the star of today's show, which is not the guitar, but what we're plugging it into. This is the Fishman Pro EQ preamp. Now, for you friends who are plugging your acoustic guitars in, this sort of thing is absolute gold. This is what we're listening to the guitar through, which is providing all of the EQ, all of the compression. We've got a little bit of reverb in post. This guitar already has a Fishman pickup in it, so it already sounds pretty great. You guys know I'm a big fan of Fishman stuff. Also, in addition to that, when we take a listen to my Maybach, which is over my shoulder, it doesn't have Fishman influences in it, even though you guys know that I love me some Fishman influences, but it does have a Fishman Power Bridge, which is the piezo pickup that Fishman make for electric guitars, so I can make my electric guitar sound suitably acoustic-tastic. But if you like the way this guitar sounds, which I most certainly do, we can attribute the majority of that not to my, let's call them inauthentic classical chops, but mainly to this preamp. It sounds absolutely killer. We'll be doing a full review of this. You can check out a full review of this guitar, which is coming in this week's edition of Guitar Interactive Magazine. But before we go any further, a little bit of housekeeping. Let's say some hellos. If you are new here, hey, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for taking the chance on a stream about classical guitar by somebody who doesn't play classical guitar. That's a bold move, but we're all about bold moves here, man. We're not afraid to take risks. You know what these streams are all about, I'm sure. We do this every Monday anyway. If you're new, we do this every Monday. We hang out, we try and make ourselves better guitar players by exploring the work of other guitar players, some concepts around technique, around theory, around improvisation, you name it. All manner of styles are covered. It is a general good time. Now, if you're one of our returning streamers, it's wonderful to have you back. We're going to say some hellos to the chat, and then we're going to get into the meat of today's lesson. We've got some really, really interesting stuff for you today. It may not be what you expect. We might do some pedal point stuff, sure, but may not be quite what you expect. I'll throw my headphones back on for that in a second, but the deal with this, the reason I have headphones, is I want to hear what this guitar sounds like plugged in. So that's why I'm going to throw those back on in just a moment, drop them on the floor, because they're quite warm. It's kind of hot in my studio today, so one of those. Anyway, Marcin is the first one to the door. Marcin says, hello guys, this series is awesome, Nick. Very interesting topics every week. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. And thank you for your kind comment on my latest music video. Guys wondering, we've dropped another single. It's not Blitzkrieg this time. It's my band Saints of Arcadia, who I have been in for, a very long time. So I think we formed in 2008. Myself and John, who's the other guitar player. We've had other members come and go since then. We are on our longest serving lineup right now, which is my drummer Dan, my bass player Anna, and we released a song. It's our first song in 10 years. It's called One on One. If you guys want to know a bit more about that, I will tell you more as the stream goes on, but that's not what we're here to talk about right away. Sacred Godslayer is in the house, says, hi Nick, hi guys, I knew this was coming. Man, I'm guessing you could just feel it. It felt rude not to touch on the wonderful world of classical guitar, even though I don't really play classical guitar, but then I don't really play jazz, and I don't really play rock and roll, and I don't really play country, so like, what else is new? And I barely play fusion. Anyway, PJ's in the house. Hi Marcin, SGS, and Nick, and all. Loving these steel sessions. Love them all, but it's making a difference to my playing more interesting. Man, I really appreciate that. That's kind of you. Response Audio is here. Lovely to see you. Helmet Strap is asking if we're going to take a look at ska, reggae, or disco in a future stream. Well, we are pivoting and moving to another topic next week, because these streams have been for for the month of July. We have a whole new topic for you starting next week for August, but we may revisit this one because these have been an awful lot of fun, so maybe we will talk about that. I'd also be interested to do some streams maybe on stealing stuff from other instruments, so maybe stealing from singers or stealing from slide guitar players, bass players. In fact, I think there's been some talk of bass players in the comments. James Curtis says, hey everyone, Nick always does such a great job with these lessons. Thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate that, man. That's really good of you. I'm glad you're enjoying them. If you guys are getting some value out of what we're doing today, by the way, a couple of ways you can help us out. If you want to support us, best way you can do it is by giving this video a thumbs up, first of all, sharing it with your guitar playing friends, go to the link down below where you can check out a link to this, the star of the show, this Fishman Pro EQ DI pedal, which we're using for all of our acoustic sounds today. It sounds killer, but if it's off at any point, it's a tuner switched on there. Anyway, Larry Warren is in the house. Larry, it's great to see you. Timothy Appling is in the house. Sacred Godslayer says, as I fiddle on bass a lot, a steal from bass players would be good. I totally agree, right? Stolen loads from playing bass, doing bass gigs as well. There's a lot of folks saying they've got basses that maybe they're not touching so much. Erica Stridham, any relation to Gary Stridham? Who knows? Says, episode Twisted Love, Dr. Phil. Don't know what that means, but hey, I'm going to assume it's a cool thing. So hey, Mark Randall's in the house, says, hey Nick, hey guys, Nick is such a versatile player. Don't know about that, man, but it's very kind of you. I think I'm just a player who's not afraid to steal stuff. That's basically it. Like, all of this stuff that you're hearing is just stuff that I've stolen, and I will be sharing my tips on stealing stuff to you. Steve McDee's here. Cranky Tom's tuning in from Denmark. He's going to watch on the replay. Don't forget, you guys can catch this on the replay too. Kate Strange is here. Larry Warren's in the house saying he's got many a gig playing bass. There were 50,000 guitar players and no bass players, so I picked it up. It helped my guitar playing. You know, that is literally the reason the electric bass was invented. Now, I understand that they've diverged and they've become separate instruments, and that's cool. But the electric bass guitar exists so that guitar players can steal gigs from bass players. It's history. Maybe we'll talk about bass another time. Timothy Hapling says, I've been stealing so many licks I might be a kleptomaniac. Nothing wrong with that. Nobody loses if you steal a lick. If you steal a lick from a player, that player still gets to keep the lick. You don't take it off them. They still have it, so maybe steal isn't the right word, but take a copy of. Copy's probably the one, but I like steal because it sounds fun. Larry Warren says, Richie Blackmore was the first person I heard using classical ideas. A pioneer for sure, especially in the world of rock electric guitar, most definitely. Timothy Appling saying, I might have grabbed the wrong guitar. Don't worry, you can do what you're doing with all of this stuff, I'm sure. Kim is in the house now. Kim and I have to have a conversation a little bit later on. Good stuff, but everything ran over on a couple of interviews I was doing today. So Kim, I will catch up with you a little bit later. Marcin says, I would classically play my PRS. You can play anything on the PRS. We love a bit of that. He also have a very kind donation from our friend Dr. 34M5XX is either side. Much love from Germany. You all have an amazing week. Man, thank you so much. That is really, really kind of you. I appreciate that. That's super, super cool. Tony McAnally says, good evening. Like the court. I like the court too. Raisinate at 100 says, let's go. I'm subscribed from Canada. Let's go. Let's go indeed. Nick Lupin Jennison, I will take the compliment, man. So anyway, listen, we're talking about things that we can steal from classical guitarists today. A quick shout out to today's sponsor in case you missed it. This stream is brought to you by our friends at Fishman, who've provided not only this guitar, but also the preamp that we're plugged into. It is the Pro EQ DI. It's killer. Sounds wonderful. We'll talk more about that a bit later on. So let's start with one of the first concepts that we can steal from classical guitar players. And this is a fun one, and one that is really easy for you to implement into your electric guitar playing right away, and that is the vibrato. Now, this is an obvious one. We got some less obvious ones coming up, but the vibrato is a big deal in classical guitar. The reason for this is, in classical guitar or playing a nylon strung guitar, it's not very easy, and it's bordering on impossible, to play what we consider a conventional rock vibrato or a blues vibrato. That being the kind of vibrato where you play a note and then, I'm not going to play it, but I'll show you, where you grab a note and you bend the string like this. The reason for that is it just doesn't really do anything. Now, I am Zach Wilding that. I'm going to put these headphones on to make sure that I'm hearing what you guys are hearing, but I am Zach Wilding that within an inch of its life. I'm going to try my absolute level best with this. Let's see. There's the guitar. I'm pulling on that with all of my might. You can hear it's barely a semitone. Probably put me out of tune as well. It's barely a semitone before I've even before I've reached the end of the fretboard. And this is quite a wide fretboard because it's a classical style guitar, this chord sol and canto, which is very beautiful, by the way. So that kind of vibrato just doesn't work. You can hear it doesn't make a sound. It's a crazy thing. So what we do on classical guitar is we have a specific type of vibrato that's commonly referred to as classical vibrato. Of course, legit classical guitar players would just call this vibrato, and it sounds like this. Now, I'm sure you'll agree, that is a really, really beautiful sound, this classical vibrato thing. And I'm going to talk about how to do it, and we'll talk about how to do it in your electric guitar in a second. But if you have your electric guitar, fear not, you can do everything we're about to do on this classical guitar on your electric guitar. But if you've got a nylon string, go grab one, man. They're just great fun. So, the classical vibrato is interesting and unique in the fact that it not only goes up in pitch, like a rock vibrato, but it also allows us to go downwards in pitch. You can hear that starts on this D sharp note. We're playing an E, so this D sharp note. And my pitch doesn't just go up, it doesn't just go like this. But it also goes below the note. Now this is closer to a true vibrato. In essence, a rock vibrato is kind of like a half vibrato compared to the way other instruments will do it, especially singers. Most singers, unless they're doing something which is a very special effect, like maybe a sharp only vibrato, most singers will vibrato either side of a pitch. Most string instruments will vibrato either side of a pitch. And when we do bends in vibrato, we end up going either side of the pitch too, which is why Brian May's vibrato sounds so nice. We can't do that on our rock vibrato, but with classical vibrato we can. So here's how we're going to do this. We are going to start by grabbing a note with your pinky finger. Now this is going to be counterintuitive because pinky finger is normally the hardest finger to do vibrato on, but for some reason it's easier to do vibrato with the pinky finger on the classical guitar than it is to do it with the index finger. It's because we can use our other fingers to support. Now here's the concept. We're going to grab the 9th fret. You probably can't see the markers there, but this chord logo is 12. So if we count down from 12 to 11 to 10 to 9, grab the 9th fret in your G string. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to play the note with a pick or with fingers, whatever you prefer. I'll use a pick because I don't have nails. And instead of doing a vibrato up and down like this, we are going to push the string like we're trying to take this finger and push the string towards the guitar's nut. Almost like you're kind of grabbing it and dragging it like this. Like you're doing that motion, but you're trying to push the string in this direction. Then when you're done, we're going to release it and then try and pull the string in this direction, almost like you're trying to pull on it from this nut. So we're pushing towards the nut and then pulling away from the, keep saying nut, the bridge, pushing towards the bridge, pulling away from the bridge. Let's start with some very subtle oscillations. We'll pick, and then we'll push towards the bridge. You can hear that goes flat. Now we'll pull away from the bridge. You can hear that goes sharp. Now I'm using my other fingers here to help brace my pinky finger. So I'm not just pulling with the pinky finger, you can also see my whole hand is moving while I'm doing this. But you'll notice the actual string itself doesn't appear to be shifting around very much. What I'm doing is I'm pushing to make the string go flat, pulling to make it go sharp. It's a really beautiful sound. We can do it at multiple notes at once. It sounds super even compared to our rock vibrato. Now we can do this with any finger, but it is most challenging with the index finger because we haven't got any other fingers to brace against. But here's a fun thing. It doesn't just sound nice on your nylon strung classical guitar, it also sounds beautiful on your electric guitar. So let's grab the Maybach, we'll put this on tuner, we're going to throw a big dirty rock sound on, and I'll show you what this sounds like. We're going to do a quick comparison between the rock vibrato and the classical vibrato. Here's the rock noise. Feels like a toy in comparison in terms of size, but it sounds killer. This is the tone that I'm most at home with. Check this out, right? If I go to that 9th fret and do the same deal, pushing and pulling, we can get some really cool results. Now, it almost sounds like bar vibrato. It almost sounds like a whammy bar. So this is really appropriate for fusion type stuff. We played our fusion things in one of our previous streams. Let me show you how this might sound. In fact, you know what? I'll do it in the Top Gun ballad real quick. Once again, this guitar, while it doesn't have Fishman pickups in, is loaded with a Fishman power bridge. So that's my acoustic sounds when I'm playing live. It's a wonderful thing. Let's throw this backing track on. And let's quickly check out the bar vibrato-esque things we can get with. Turn that guitar up a little bit. Now that is, to my ear, that is a super cool sound. So, stealing vibrato from classical guitar players, who knew? Who knew? But it is another expressive tool in your toolkit, so to speak. Response Audio in the house with Larry Carlton used that back and forth vibrato. Sure, absolutely, right? Now, it doesn't just sound beautiful on the electric stuff where it's all filthy and distorted. It also sounds gorgeous on some clean ideas, if we're playing maybe some clean dyads. Let's say we're all the way up here. That gentle back and forth vibrato almost puts us in the ballpark of the Chris Buck shaky neck vibrato, but for me it has a little more control. I'm never very comfy with this. I couldn't really make that work, so I'll use classical vibrato a whole lot. Almost, well, not almost all of the time, but it's definitely a tool in my expressive toolkit. So let's get away from that. Let's go back to our nylon guitar, because we've got another tip for you. So that is tip number 1. Steal the vibrato from classical guitar players. Here is tip number 2. Second thing we can do to steal from our friends in the wonderful world of classical guitar. This is less of a tip and more of a practice concept, right? So the tip / practice concept is to get good at making the whole piece of music on your own. So get good at being the only thing that's making the music. Now, this will have a huge impact on your ability to sound cohesive in a band if you can make a whole song or you can make a whole melody or a chord progression all on your lonesome. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So, for example, if I took a melody that went like this. With vibrato. It's a nice melody, right? It's going to be broadly in the key of E major. Let me show you what's going on here. We're going to play D sharp, C sharp, D sharp on our B string, frets 4, 2, 4, 5, 2, 5, which is E, D sharp, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, which is 7, 5, 7, and we'll finish on 9, 7, 9, or G sharp, F sharp, G sharp. This would give us, in the key of E major, 7, 6, 7, root 7, root 2, root 2, 3, 2, 3. That sounds fine. But as soon as you introduce a little bit of extra information, it sounds a lot prettier. All of a sudden, we have an entire piece of music just from our guitar. Let me show you that again. Stack the vibrato on top and we feel like we're making music here. So what's going on? Well, all I'm doing here, this is kind of step number 1 with this stuff, is I am outlining a chord and a melody simultaneously. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. You'll find that a lot of classical guitar repertoire is based around this idea of outlining a chord while simultaneously playing a melody. Interestingly enough, a lot of neoclassical guitar repertoire, i.e. the shred stuff that we all love, all that Malmsteen kind of nonsense, or the Vinnie Moore kind of stuff, or any of that kind of business, that is rarely based on legitimate classical guitar stuff. It's based more often on things like cello suites, because classical guitar is often a deeply polyphonic instrument. There's lots of chords going on, lots of notes going on all at once to make a big, full, complete sound. But let me show you what's happening here. So I am taking my chord changes, I'm laying them under this melody. This melody is going to be 7. These are intervals, by the way, in the key of E major. 7, 6, 7. Underneath that, I'm laying the 5th note of the scale, which is going to be fret 2 on my A string. Let's try that together. If we play the 2nd fret on the A string, and then the B string, we play 4, 2, 4. That gives us a B major chord. Really pretty. Much prettier than just doing this. That's fine. Here we sound like we're actually playing classical guitar, which is nice. The next one we'll play is going to be root 7 root. We can harmonize this any way we want. We could put the root note underneath. We can put the flat 6 underneath, sorry, the 6 underneath, which will give us a C sharp minor chord. That's quite pretty. Like that a lot. We can put the G sharp underneath, A underneath, B underneath. Tips on this stuff coming later. I like the C sharp quite a lot. That sounds very pretty. So we've taken this and turned it into this. Our next little group of melody notes with this, which we could play with the B underneath. That sounds pretty, but I'm going to play a D note underneath. I'll borrow the flat 7. Very pretty sounding. Let's talk through what's happened there. Here I'm playing 2 on the A string, 4, 2, 4 on the B string, 4 on the A string, 5, 4, 5 on the B string, 5 on the A string, 7, 5, 7 on the B string. And we'll finish up with the lovely big E chord. Here we could play this E note, we could play this low E string. Either sounds nice. We can play both. They both sound super pretty. It's a really lovely sound. Now that serves to highlight the sort of thing I'm talking about, but here's the tip, here's the actual tip. When you come to practice and you're playing some improvised lines, let's say we're going to improvise some stuff in E minor, because we all like E minor, right? In fact, let's do A minor. We've just done a load of E major. Let's do A minor. Vibrato doesn't work. Do the classical vibrato. You can take some cues from classical guitar by throwing in some notes in addition to your melody notes to try and create some chord changes and see if you can create some movement in amongst your improvised lines. This will take your noodling to the next level, but it'll also create an awareness of, you know, where you sit in terms of a chord progression. So let's outline a very common chord progression in A minor, and we'll do this together. The chord progression is going to be as follows. We'll play A minor, F sharp major, sorry, F major, A minor, F major, D minor, E7, which could be E major. So it appears we've gone a little bit out of tune, but that's fine because my preamp has a tuner on it, which is nice. Once again, this stream is brought to you by our friends at Fishman, and I'm currently tuning my guitar using the Pro EQ DI pedal, which not only is providing all the EQ and compression that you're hearing today, compression being important. There we go. but it also has a tuner on it, which is big and bold and accurate. This is the guy. It's great. Love it to death. So, we have a chord progression. A minor, F, D minor, E7. We're not playing that. That's another story. Okay. If I were to improvise, I could take the idea of just playing a root note underneath each chord and improvising around it. There's an A, there's an F, there's a D. Do we have an E? You bet. There's another A. Watch this. Here's an improv with no root notes. Lots of fun. Watch me put the root notes into this. Now on classical guitar or on an acoustic guitar or just on a clean electric guitar, this sounds absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful thing. Doesn't necessarily translate to our distorted electric guitar, but what we can do is we can take the bass notes and use it as a jumping off point for our improv. Now this is something you'll hear Eric Johnson do all the time, and it comes from this same approach. I'm going to put the nylon guitar down just for a second, very gingerly, because it's very beautiful. We're going to pick up the electric guitar. We'll go to the big dirty rock sound, which is also out of tune. Give me a quick second to do a little tune. It's a gigging guitar, this one, so it's my number one, and it gets a little bit of playtime, let's just say. Let's get rid of you. That's the one. Okay, cool. So let's take that same chord progression. Chord progression being A minor, F major, D minor, E minor. Fantastic. One quick little tuning check again, because we're playing music here and we want it to be in tune, we want it to be nice. Yep, that ought to do it. Let's see. So what I can do with this is I can take inspiration from my classical improv that I've just done, but I can almost go quite Eric with this. I can go very Eric Johnson and just play the root note before I play a handful of other notes like this. It's a super cool tip, right? Now, it doesn't just extend to doing this stuff in solo, however. What we can also do, and this is another tip that we can get good at from our classical guitar friends, is we can get good at outlining these chord changes as we play them. So if we take a simple set of changes, let's say, for example, we take a 2, 5, 1, in the key of C major. We could easily do this with the blues. We'll do it with the blues in a second when I go back to the electric, but the classical is the subject for today, so you guys get the gist. So, Mark Crandall's grandson is here. Hi, Mark Crandall's grandson. When you're a big lad, you'll get a guitar, just like Grandad, and it'll be great. So I'll see you next week, man. Take it easy. Anyway, that seems like a perfectly good excuse to dash off to me, let me tell you. So anyway, up chord progression. D minor 7, D minor 9, G7 something, whatever you want to play, G7 altered if you like, C major 7, I should, in theory, be able to play, even with single notes, and outline these changes. Or any other changes for that matter, and have you hear them. So if I play this, if I just play some single notes that don't have any emphasis on the chord that I'm playing, I might get this. Nice little flourish at the end. More classical flourishes later. But hopefully what you should have heard from that is you can hear that it's this scale, but maybe you didn't hear these changes happening. However, if I play this, you should have heard some chord movements going on there. Let me try it one more time. We're looking for these chords. Loads of fun. Now, this you may be thinking, well, that's a fun party trick, Nick. Yeah, that's a fun thing to practice. First of all, it's a really fun thing to practice. It's like, how good can you play and still have the chord changes come out? But we talked about this loads in the context of blues playing. Now, to be a really convincing blues player, in my opinion, is to have an awareness of the chord changes and to be able to create the chord changes in your playing without there necessarily being an accompaniment there. Now, the way I did that, there's no magic trick here, is I knew what the chords were, I knew what the notes in the chords were, and I made sure I was emphasizing those in my playing and landing those on strong beats, leaning on them more heavily, transitioning from one scale note to another, but emphasizing starting on one chord tone, say in D minor. The notes in D minor in this case would be D, F, A. We can play C, but I'm going to mainly play D, F, and A. In G, it's G, B, and D. In C, so on and so forth. Big reach there. That was a big old stretch. So I'm doing that in my classical context. I'm just leaning on these chord changes, but I can also do it in a blues. So if I grab my electric guitar, this is very much of what you can steal from classical guitar, not just a let's play classical guitar all night, but you know, you get the gist. Let's go to a slightly more blues approved sound. Well, maybe not that delay off, because that's a little bit extra. Now, if I was to play a blues in the key of A, I could noodle some blues all day and have it sound hopefully reasonably okay. Well, there's two of me, nobody wants that. Loads of blues licks, they all sound like good fun, right? But what if I start paying attention to the fact that there's a 1, a 4, a 1, and a 5 in my blues? Even if I do this without a chord accompaniment, I should be able to make you hear those chord changes. I'll play some bass notes to make it happen. You get the gist. Now, this sort of practice, this idea of getting good at being the whole song or the whole piece and not relying on some other players to highlight that stuff for you, will make you a better and more convincing improviser. So if we turn this to our blues progression, we've got a slow blues in the key of B. Do we do slow blues? Do we do a faster blues? I've just been chatting to Kenny Wayne Shepherd, so maybe I'll do the one with horns. Nice guy. Anyway, we'll do the one in A with horns. Check this out. So I'm going to try and highlight some changes here. I'll do one pass without, and then one pass by highlighting the changes. Turn that track down a little bit. Nothing wrong with that, but if we go like this, now, you can hear the difference there immediately. You can hear one is so much more musical than the other. And it is literally all down to just being good at being all of the music all on your lonesome. How do we practice it? Well, we grab our acoustic guitar, we grab our classical guitar, and we get good at playing all of the song on our lonesome, keeping things moving, keeping chord changes audible the whole time. So if I was to play a blues, let's say let's challenge ourselves, let's play B flat. So on and so forth. You don't just have to play the old classical stuff on the classical guitar. You can practice all of this stuff on the classical guitar. Now, that's two things we can pinch from classical guitar players. One was very small, one was very obvious. In case you've just joined us, don't forget, this stream is brought to you by our friends at Fishman. We'll tell you more about that in a little bit. They provided not just this guitar, but also the preamp that we're playing through. Thanks, Fishman. They really do look after us. They're lovely guys. But also, don't forget we had our two tips. We had steal vibrato from classical players and steal the idea of being good at being all of the music, playing the whole thing, keeping the chord changes going while you play melodies. This leads us onto our third tip, which is something very much technique based. And this is a huge and wonderful way to practice your technique. And it's thus, get good. This is tip number 3. Get good at keeping one finger still while you move the other fingers. That sounds obvious, right? But Get good at keeping one finger still while you play the other fingers, while you move the other fingers. What on earth do I mean by that? Well, check this out, right? Here we go. If we go to this, now I'm using a pick. I'm going to be blasphemous here. I'm going to continue playing with the plectrum because I haven't got nails. Look, no nails. If I had nails, I could try it with fingers, but it just doesn't sound right. Sounds like kind of a bit of a nothing. Use a pick, play with an appropriate dynamic, you'll be fine. All the classical purists will hate me, but that's okay. We're here to steal from them, not to hand it to them. Now, key of E. E major pentatonic. Box number 1. We play 12, 9, 12, 9, 11, 9, 11, 9, 11, 9, 12, 9, low E string. Park your pinky finger on fret number 12 on your B string. Play some stuff without moving your pinky finger. Let me try that again. Watch this. It is surprisingly hard. I want you to take a crack at this, right? Pinky finger goes down. Keep your pinky finger on 12. Improvise me something in E major pentatonic. Without moving your pinky finger. Keep your pinky finger rooted on this note. Why might I do this, Nick? You may ask, why on earth would you ever end up playing this? Horrible stretch. Well, friends, in the wonderful world of classical guitar, we may be required to do something like this. But it's not just pinky fingers. We have to be able to do this in every finger, so let's pick some others. Let's try alternating. Here's a really fun exercise. Pinky finger on 12, second finger on 10, first finger on 9. 12, 10, 9. Gary Cowan in with the observation that we're playing pedal point. We are indeed playing pedal, but the difference here is we're not moving the pedal tone on and off. We use it as an excuse to play with the pedal tone ringing. So it's more of a drone, I guess. You can still call it pedal. It is still a pedal, but we're thinking about it as a drone pedal. Now here is the exercise. The exercise is as follows. Mark Manish says, and without trying to crush the fretboard with your unmoving finger. For sure, it is a very difficult thing to do. Response audio says hard to do well. Tell me about it. I'm finding it very hard to do well. And making plenty of mistakes, but that's the whole point. This is to encourage you to practice this stuff. So, pinky finger goes here, second finger goes here, first finger goes here. We're going to improvise in E major around these notes. Really difficult to do, impossibly hard to do, but it is such a great dexterity builder. It's not even funny. Now, there are some exercises we can do, some cold exercises that I'm going to lift from some friends of mine. This is one of Nick Harrison's, for example, where we play a pedal exercise. We play a single pedal note, and we get good at moving our fingers That's hard. I say get good as if I'm any good at it. Very challenging to do. Now, this does not sound a great deal like music. So, the reason that we're not doing that is because we want to have some fun with this stuff. So, what we can do is we can take these two concepts, these two ideas that we discussed, this idea of outlining the chord changes, of playing these lovely lovely chord change ideas that we're playing. And we can also play with the idea of trying to keep a finger on for as long as we possibly can. It's a really fun thing to experiment with. Let me show you on these two cameras. We're going to do a little bit now. Fluff that, let's go again. That's a very challenging thing to do. Again, improvising everything, but that's the whole point. So expect gaffes, expect to make fluffs while you're doing this. I most certainly am, but that's part of the fun. Friends, to recap, we've had 3 tips that we can steal from our friends on the wonderful world of classical guitar. On the flip side, we can steal their vibrato. We can steal the idea of playing all of the music ourselves and getting good at producing the whole sound of the whole song all on a lonesome. And of course, we can still play with that, but we can introduce this idea of getting good at moving our other fingers while one finger stays put. We've run clean out of time, so we're going to do some Q&A. If you have questions, we have answers. But to remind you, today's stream has been brought to you by our friends at Fishman, who've been kind enough to provide not only this Platinum Pro DI, which is helping this guitar sound so great, but also this chord Sol and Canto that we're playing on today, which also plays and sounds really beautifully. It's kind of a hybrid classical, I guess you'd call it, or a transition classical, in that it's a slightly narrower note width. There is a tiny bit of radius to the fretboard. It doesn't feel concave, but it still has a lot of the aspects of classical guitars that we like, such as the fan style bracing. We have the pretty broad, pretty flat fretboard. It's not super flat. It's nice in between, wide string spacing, all of that good stuff. Nylon strings, slotted headstock, etc. And it also has a great sounding Fishman preamp with a tuner on board as well, but I like the tuner on this preamp externally better because I can see it. Anyway, let's see what we got in the comments. If you've got questions, drop them down below. We're going to talk about that. Chris Brown is in the house and says, add some Josh Smith chord connections for sure. This is with regards to this whole business of being good at playing all of the chord and all of the music yourself. Absolutely. He says that Josh Smith guest episode opened my ear up to Charlie Parker's approach to the blues. Man, it was a great guest stream, man. Josh was so cool. It was lush to have him on board. He was the man, and I learned a ton of stuff. I know you guys did too. If you don't know what we're talking about, go to the Guitar Interactive magazine YouTube channel if you're not watching us there already, and check out Josh Smith guest stream. Incredible. Just like mind-blowing. Jonathan McCulloch in the house saying, to this day, I still jam Mediterranean Sundance, Al Di Meola, Paco, etc. Great exercise. Man, if you guys aren't familiar with One Night in San Francisco, first of all, I mean, you're missing out on one of the great guitar albums of all time. It's up there with like Frampton Comes Alive and with Electric Ladyland, etc. It's unbelievable, right? And it's live, and it's Paco de Lucia, can't say that probably, Paco de Lucia, John McLaughlin, not Jonathan McCulloch, but maybe related, who knows? But yes, what's the other one? Oh yeah, Al Di Meola. Sorry, it got lost there because we have all sorts of other stuff come in the comments that I'm going to address in a second. Some good stuff. Those guys, literally the record is they're panned here, 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 so you can hear what everybody's doing in the headphones. It's mind-blowing. Jonathan McCullough says, I would love you to do some Borelli Django lessons. I would need to learn some first. I am not that guy, but thank you. I appreciate that. Fran says, thank you for this very useful lesson today, man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Right, very, very kind of you. We got some of the cool observations coming in. Response Audio is saying the back and forth shaking is kind of like how violinists add vibrato to notes too. Absolutely. Violinists will rock back and forward. So there is a subtle difference here because we're a fretted instrument. So the violinist will rock the note back and forward on the finger and they'll pivot the note back and forth, where we can't really do that. So what we do instead is, as we mentioned, we actually physically push the string flat and pull it sharp. If we just try and rock on the finger, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't make a sound, but it's very similar. You're absolutely right. It looks very similar. It just has a slightly different execution. We got some other questions coming in. We got some of the cool stuff. I'm going to address some of these, as many of these as I can. We've got some cool observations about bass as well, about stealing stuff from bass. We'll definitely get to that as we go on. We've got a one from Sacred Godslayer says, Skid Row, I remember you in solo in rock contest. For sure. One from my friend Christian who says, this guitar sounds amazing. What is the cost? You'd be surprised. Cort are making some really beautiful sounding and beautiful playing acoustic guitars that I'm a huge fan of. And they don't really cost a huge amount of money. We don't really, you know, this may change your point of view, but let's actually find out. Cort, Sol, and Canto, which is this instrument. This guitar, at the time of streaming, changes may vary, can be had for just a sniff over £1,000, which sounds like a lot, but really not for a great classical. It's got a Fishman preamp. It sounds unreal, right? Really, really, really beautiful thing. Now, also, we have this Fishman preamp, which is helping. But the guitar does sound great on its own. You can check out a full review of this in the upcoming edition of Guitar Interactive magazine. Chris Brown says, are there any more guest appearances planned? There most certainly are. Would be great to have someone like Jake Wilson, 2 L's in Hell, on. Jake's a friend, so I'd love to have him on board. He's a great dude. Lots of questions we could ask him. He is the man. We'd love to have Sam back on, because Sam is one of our boys. Why wouldn't we have Sammy B back on? I know he's doing his own webinars and stuff, but I want to sit and chat to Sam. But what I want to know from you guys is, who would you like to see on board? You know, don't say David Gilmour. If you want David Gilmour, say David Gilmour, but we might not get him. But who knows? We got Josh Smith. Who knows who we might get? We might get some great guys to come on and do this. I would love to do some more guest streams. So that is a really super top idea. Very, very quickly, I want to make sure I don't miss this. We've got one more little thing here. Oh, from Trans9 saying I'm a bass player. Still get a lot from these streams. Subscribed. Oh man, thank you so much. Appreciate that. So with regards to the bass thing, I think there is a lot to be learned from bass. There's a lot of guys talking about this right now. Timothy Appling is saying, I also have a bass in my guitar arsenal and I play with it occasionally and haven't given you love lately. Thank you for reminding me. My bass is sitting, one of them is over here, one of them is over here, my 4 strings over here, my 5 strings over there, both in a state of disrepair. I need to get my basses fixed before we do any of this sort of stuff. Sarah Godslayer says, Nuno, maybe, I don't know. Maybe he would. Who knows? Worth an ask. Danny Gill is a very obvious choice. We love Danny Gill, right? Danny would have you on board in a second. So, folks, if you want Danny Gill on, we'll make it happen. Guys, unfortunately, we are running clean out of time. I'm going to play a little bit more. Quick reminder on today's tips. They have been as follows. We've had steal the vibrato from classical players. We've had steal the business of getting good at all the music from those guys. Steal the idea of playing the whole piece yourself. And steal the idea of keeping one finger still while you move all of those other fingers. At no point did we say steal things like, I don't know, like practicing the Goldberg variations or any of that sort of silliness. That stuff is great. It's obvious. We didn't say steal Pima because this is about stealing stuff that's going to impact your regular guitar playing, i.e. your non-classical stuff, because we're assuming that you guys aren't classical players. I'm not a classical player, so, you know, I assume we're in the same ballpark. Anyway, folks, This has been the end to a very fun series of streams on stealing stuff from other guitar players. Next week, we are back with a brand new series of streams. We do this every Monday. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to us on whatever channel you happen to be watching on. Hit that sub bell down below so we can let you know when we're about to go live. Share this with your guitar playing friends if you got use out of what we're doing here. It really does help. My name's Nick Jennison for Guitar Interactive. LICKSlibrary.com. Go to Guitar Interactive magazine for news, reviews, interviews, gear, all that good stuff. LICKSlibrary.com for lessons upon lessons. Check out the linked lesson down below. If you want to learn some legit classical guitar from a legit classical guitar player, we've got Giorgio Serci teaching you all manner of beautiful stuff. And also, don't forget, today's stream was brought to you by Fishman, who have provided this beautiful tone. I'm sure we can agree it sounds $1 million. My name's Nick Jennison. Let's jam out a little bit more. See how many of these concepts you can spot in this wee little jam right at the end. Here we go. Hi, my name's Nick Jennison, and it's my pleasure to announce that GI Plus, the exclusive lesson platform from Guitar Interactive magazine, is moving to LICKSlibrary.com. GI Plus features a whole host of the best players and educators in the world, bringing you exclusive lessons on everything from metal to blues to fusion and everything in between. Want to level up your shred chops? Check out How to Play Fast by Andy James. Or how about sweep picking with Rick Graham? Or maybe country's more your bag? Well, how about a full-length country guitar course from Andy Wood? Interested in learning how to play over changes? Well, members get access to hours of exclusive lessons from fusion maestro Tom Quayle. Or maybe you want your playing to sound more soulful? Well, who better than Chris Buck to show you how it's done? Members also get access to every lesson ever published in Guitar Interactive magazine, including Michael Caswell's legendary Pro Concepts column. Or maybe you want to learn the secrets of the masters. Well, members get access to over 70 full-length tech sessions where our tutors painstakingly decode the styles of players like David Gilmour, Eddie Van Halen, John Petrucci, Larry Carlton, Slash, Tosin Abasi, Paul Gilbert, and many more. And you get all of this in addition to all of the amazing content on LICKSlibrary.com, which includes note-for-note tuition of over 60 classic albums, weekly lesson uploads, a backing track library, and one-to-one player support. There has never been a better time to sign up than right now.